let's talk about free will. Now, for context, I'm speaking from a compatibilist perspective. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I believe it is most conducive to answering the questions posited within the assignment without getting muddled up in any religious stuff. I'm not necessarily saying I am a compatibilist. I honestly don't know what I am, but just that I'm going to approach this from a more scientific-y perspective. Human beings do in fact possess authentic agency within their lives, ergo free will, and the body, as in the one you inhabit now, is essential to personal freedom due to the principles of causal determinism. Lots of words there, and I think it's essential for us to define many of the terms that I just used. What is free will? Free will, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is the ability to decide what to do independently of any outside influence. This is a relatively self-explanatory concept. However, I do think it is worth stating. Materialism is defined by our textbook as the theory that all things, including the mind, are physical entities within or connected to the body. Therefore, materialists believe that what is real is physically observable. This is why materialism has sprouted many ideas such as empiricism and determinism, which I will very quickly define here and elucidate further, I suppose. Causal determinism, which is the determinism that I'm talking about the most because compatibilists agree with it, believe that there are basically two main factors in determining behavior. That is your physical structure, as in the structure of your brain, like your neurochemistry and your atomic makeup, as well as your physical experience. These two factors play significant roles in creating a behavioral identity and personal identity, which, of course, in a way that the hard determinists believe will restrict or completely remove the concept of free will. However, as I've just stated, I do believe there is free will, and I will explain why in just a moment. Existentialism, which is a term I haven't used yet, but will quite a lot when we talk about Sartre here, is the struggle, considering we possess full autonomy and free will, to forge our own meaning in life. That is the essence of existentialism. It's kind of a muddled term as time has gone on, especially since you have the groundwork laid by Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, and then eventually kind of picked up and moved around by Kafka's and Camus and Sartre's alike. So I believe, or the compatibilist believes, that we do possess free will due to the conceivability of alternative action, or, as our book defines it, the principle of alternative possibilities. And the principle of alternative possibilities posits the notion that even though causal determinism may be true, that our thoughts and that our actions may be predetermined by a series of factors that we necessarily can't control, for example, like I had stated before, our experience and our structure, it is still conceivably possible for an individual to make another decision or perform another behavior. Perhaps then, even if 1 million identical people, both in atomic structure and experience, are placed in front of some kind of stimuli, they will perform the same action. Like, I have 1 million different Zacks who are atomically the same, and they're all placed inside of a white box with a single orange cube. Now, these Zacks will very likely, according to determinism, pick up the cube in almost the exact same way and think in almost the exact same way because their behaviors are determined by the stimuli and the experience and the structure. Even if that is true, the fact that one of those Zacks of the million could perform a different action, that it is conceivably possible for one of those Zacks to kick the orange cube, for example, proves that we do possess free will. That even if our actions are determined, the fact we can do something else implies that we are free. And one of the most essential figures in the realm of free will expression is the existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre, which is, of course, my professor's favorite philosopher, who claimed from our Einzelgänger video, I butchered that name, that the path, ergo the world or the uncontrollable, determines our wills, and that our will to continue to involve ourselves entangles us even more to the path. And what he's saying here is that, in a very similar vein to what we were just talking about with the notion of determinism and experience specifically, that our experiences forge us to forge more experiences, that we create the stimuli based off of stimuli. This is a really complex topic. However, I do believe that Sartre is trying to say that in some way uncontrollable outcomes forge behavioral and mental states, and we are, by definition, absolutely free. We are unbound, like what the compatibilists believe, yet we find ourselves breaking our power and crafting boxes for ourselves to fit within. We are a narrative people. This is something I discussed in the last video. And I think that in the process of forging many of these boxes for ourselves, which of course are extremely heavily influenced and possibly created by our past experience in atomic structure, position in the world is definitely a significant factor, we will constrain ourselves on purpose to make cognition and decision making easier. In this way, we feel that we have meaning. We assign narrative to our lives. And much like Camus' principle of lucidity in The Absurd. So Camus obviously was an absurdist. He founded the ideology functionally. And he believed that individuals could never exist within the absurd, not truly, not authentically, because we are a narrative people and that we do construct boxes, like Sartre is about to elucidate here in one moment. But every once in a while, we have these moments where we realize our absolute power of free will and the notion that we don't have as much control as we'd like to think we do over our lives, not because we can't, but because we won't. And this is relevant because, as stated, compatibilists believe that we're forged by the path, by the narrative laid before us and written with or without us, who we are and what we can do with that personhood, with the us. And that personality, that identity, that physicality is what makes us us. And so it is logically sound to assume that the body is necessary to identity, that our position and that our, let's say, moral luck is a huge part that was also discussed in one of our videos, is what makes us us. It forges our very narratives, which forges our personalities, which forges our behavioral structure. This is why we cannot truly achieve immortality through consciousness transfer. For taking our mind into something like a simulation will relegate us to absurdity, to non-personhood, essentially like Eve and Pierre and Les Jeux Sont Faits. To conclude our short forte into free will and personhood, I'd like to restate our claims. We possess free will through the principle of alternative possibilities. Casual determinism is still upheld in this belief as we are forged by chance. The body and its position in space and unique characteristics is essential to personhood, as it is inconceivable to exist without a body. Our capacity of choice grants us purpose, and the fact that we only have so much time to exert such will grants us our meaning, and that a good life is one led authentically. Thank you.